What's up, everyone? Thank y'all for joining me on Buzzing With Marlowe, a live edition once again, guys. Not to disappoint, man. I got another good episode for you today. I am joined with my good friend David Erik. How you doing, man?
I'm good, man. Just having fun, ready to share my knowledge, some experiences that I've had in my life, and hopefully people can take from the insight.
Oh, absolutely. David, tell us a little bit about yourself, man.
Well, I'm actually right now a youth advocate. I work with students that are at risk at our local schools.
Mm-hmm.
So what I do with them is I kind of guide them into the right path because right now a lot of these kids in our society are kind of going down a path, with social media nowadays and everything
Right.
else kind of guiding their mentality. So my position is to kind of keep them away from it. I'm also a motivational speaker, and I'm a former three-sport athlete and three-time state champion and cyclist. And I
Okay.
also do a lot of. I also have my own podcast, which I have guests for. So,
Mm-hmm.
and I have a condition known as cerebral palsy that I was born with, and I'm hoping to share a bit of that knowledge to people to let them know what the disability is about and what I do, and hopefully everybody will come back more positive and a lot stronger than ever.
Absolutely, man. I love that. With me being a father of a special needs child, he has a neurofibromatosis, what we call NF1, and he was diagnosed with it at 12 months with more birthmarks than usual. He was diagnosed. I think he had 12, and they said the original number for the birthmarks that they looked at was basically 4, and he had
Wow.
12 at 12 months. So. Trust me, I've went through a lot of it. My son's also autistic. He has scoliosis. I mean, the list goes on and on. So it's really cool just to have a chat with someone like yourself because I mean, as a parent, it's a hard subject. It's a hard time, like, because obviously when you're raising your child, it's a little bit different than usual. It's just because you have to realize like the kid can't literally just pick up everything as like quick as everybody else, but they get there. They do get there, and it's like a saying, like what we say, patience is a virtue. It's just you're gonna have to be a little bit more patient, and that's one thing I've learned as a father. And he's 9 years old now, and I mean he has grown like a weed. I mean my kid's gonna be like a giant pretty soon when he gets older. Like I'm 5'8", and I know my son's gonna be at least 6 foot tall. But his educational wise, and the one thing I'll say about his autism is just how amazing his memory is. Like with me that done professional wrestling stuff, I forget a lot of stuff. I have really bad short term memory. When I'm around him, he can remind me on everything I've done in my life, everything he's had going on, and the one thing is what triggers him basically to where his memory comes back is fans. Like if when he sees fans twirling around, he actually can his memory just like snaps like a light bulb, and it just tells you everything that he finds his comfort zone per se. Like if he's been in that house or something like that, he remembers it and tells you completely word for word every time, and it never skips a beat on it. And I'll say that's one cool thing about his thing. You did say something that you were diagnosed with something when you were born. Tell us a little bit more about
So when I was of course, I was diagnosed with cerebral palsy when I was born,
it.
and when I was born 4 months premature. So picture a water bottle, and then picture me as a baby. That's how small I was. I was literally
Oh my
a miracle
gosh.
baby. Yeah, I
Oh
weighed
wow.
ounces, and
Really?
yeah, yeah. I mean, doctors said that I wasn't gonna live past 3 months, and they said all these things. Your son's gonna be a vegetable. He's gonna be in a wheelchair for the rest of his life. I couldn't read, write, or walk until I was 8 years old. I was placed
Hmm.
in special ed classes at the beginning of my life, and just told, this is it. He's not gonna go anywhere else.
Wow. Oh my gosh. So how old are you now, Dave?
I'm 30.
30. Hey, me and you, it's the same age now. So I mean, a hell of an achievement. Because I remember when my son, they told me that he wouldn't. I mean, we had all the. I mean, Lord have mercy, I can tell you on the special classes that he had to have just at 2, just for him to learn how to walk. Um, Supposedly they were supposed to speak sentences at the age of 2, and I'm just like, at 2. Like my daughter will babble for 2 sentences, not like clear as words. So what do you mean a toddler should be able to speak at 2 years old, like a full sentence? I mean, it was just like little things. My son didn't even start really per se walking until I think 6, because he was on braces and stuff like that for his ankles, because the ankles were like a little bit more turned in.
Yeah.
So it was just like those things. So I mean, that's a heck of a thing, because man, knowing what I've gone through and stuff like that, it's definitely tough. And so what motivated, like obviously with you being such a young age and stuff, with all that, did you even really even understand what was going on when they were saying stuff like that, or are you just like thinking that was a normal thing?
No, I mean, when I was a kid at the very beginning, I could understand what I actually had because mentally I wasn't there. I could understand what they
Mm-hmm.
were saying. As I got older, I struggle with kind of fitting in a little bit with a sense of belonging because I was always looked upon differently because of the way that I walked or the way that I talked or just in general. Like I especially in the school system in Puerto Rico where went to school there too because I lived in split households. So
Mm-hmm.
over there, I had teachers tell me, "Oh, your son's too slow. We don't want him in my classroom. We
Oh
want him
man.
out." And they were just completely they were just discriminating towards me, and
Uh-huh.
to the point where my stepmom she decided to take me out, and we moved here to Florida, and things got better. I moved to Florida right when I was 8 years old, right when my biological mom passed away. So
Oh wow.
she was very young too. She was 23 years old, and
Wow.
yeah, and I a lot of people don't realize that I've overcome a lot of adversity, but part of me overcoming that adversity is I was grateful enough to have co-parenting in my life. So I had my
Mm-hmm.
mom who was very very young but she gave me love. Then I had my stepmom who gave me the tough love and pushed for me to go to therapy, pushed for me to learn how to read, write, and walk, and be the successful person I am today. And then I had my father who was always encouraging and he was just always there for me and he was always as supportive as my stepmom. So
Oh man.
not very many
That's a
kids,
beautiful thing. That's a
yeah,
beautiful thing.
yeah, not very many kids get that opportunity to have co-parents and especially three parents all in one.
Man, you striking a nerve right there. My son also, me and his mom are not together. We haven't been together since basically he was 1, and it's not the easiest thing. I will say that. I mean, we all have those stories and stuff like that. So it's good to see that co-parenting it does exist and stuff. And I feel like with your child obviously needing more attention, you need to bury the hatchet per se for whatever feud you have to make it better for your child, because your child is, I would say, like how you just said you went in 2 separate households. It's kind of like that with my son. Like I give a good example, potty training. That was misery. Misery, because obviously we trained him a different way and he got trained a different way, so obviously it was took him so much longer to actually figure out, hey, I don't know which way I'm supposed to be doing this. So it's like he just literally is just in the middle, like it, and that's why I think it took him so much longer to adapt on some things, just because he's just in the middle. He doesn't know which way those both ways to actually figure out the, hey, this is my way to go. So that's a beautiful thing on that. And I'm sorry about to hear about your mom. Did your mom have any type of condition at a young age or something like that, or was it
Well,
just?
well, unfortunately, my mom and my dad had different paths in life, so they decided
Mm-hmm.
to, go separate ways. But they remained friends until her death. And one of the things was I had a lot of different stepdads, and they were all very abusive. So she went through a lot of
Oh
domestic
wow.
abuse, and then she went through, I guess, she got hooked on pills, so she was always in pain
Ah.
and always taking, something to cure the pain. And half the time, I remember as a kid, I mean, I couldn't comprehend very well, but I have these
Mm-hmm.
images where I remember her being on the couch, just in pain, not really doing much. She really couldn't do much, and most of the time, it's very turbulent. Like I'd be, at home, and something would be happening, or I'd miss like my stepmom had my school records from when I was in
Hmm.
school over there in Florida with my mom, and there were times where I missed 55 days of school because my mom
Just wasn't there. Just wasn't able to do
just
it.
wasn't there, and she would send me to school on the days where child protective services or something came to check in to see, hey, what's up with your
Oh.
son. So it's like,
Uh-huh.
I'm but I don't understand all that because I was a kid, and still to this day I'm learning things about my mom that I didn't know, that I didn't know at all, because my stepmom just she's slowly giving me that information, because there's stuff that I didn't know that's like either it's like really awesome or like super super dark that I didn't know. And it's like the super super dark stuff, it's like I'm sitting there like, whoa, like wow, like, man, like, and then you kind of say like, oh, this is tough to comprehend, but then you remember she loved you in a certain way. You can't let that manifest in your mind, because she's passed away, she's no longer in pain, and you have to realize she'll always be your mother, and she tried her best. you know
Hmm.
You-
I wanna know, like how you just said, your stepmom's still educating you basically of how your mom was and stuff like that. Do you see her differently in any way? Like, since the stuff that you find out more and more every time, it's like you literally thought you knew this woman. Like, you thought this is your mom. You thought you knew everything of her at the time. You didn't understand why, hey, she couldn't take me to school or stuff like that. You were just like, okay, this is normal. This is normal for me, whatever. What did you think of, like, literally when you find out more new things about your mom?
I mean, it's tough to know, but I don't let it kind of as you say, I don't judge her based off that anymore, because
Hmm.
it happened. So
Yeah.
it happened. Be the bigger person. She's still your mother. She honestly, she needed help, but she couldn't find a way to get it. So she
Hmm.
tried the best way that she could. You know,
Right.
and I don't blame her for any of that. She tried her best, and that's all I can ask for. And as a son, I have a younger brother too, who we have the same mom but different dads.
Hmm.
But we're proof that we turned out successful, because my brother's a senior software engineer for one of the major companies in the world for Unity technology. So a lot of the video games that you see, a lot of the technology that you deal with, he's helped develop it.
Oh,
And
wow.
he practically grew up without his dad wasn't really in his life, so it was mostly his grandmother taking care of him, and he took care of himself. He literally did everything himself. He met his wife. His wife was a huge integral part of how we became successful. So in a way, we both gained individuals different individuals to help us become successful. So that's what I
Right.
tell people. Like, you may deal with some rough patches in your life with certain family members or certain people, but there's always someone out there that'll get you out of that situation.
Right. I love that, man. It's starting to I'm starting to connect with you so much more on this, because like I go through this every single day. I mean, obviously, like I said, my kid's mom and me don't associate a lot, and it's based off just personal experiences and stuff like that. Like, I have tried, and obviously, it's just both teams don't consider to be on the same page type scenario and stuff, and it's like it's a hard thing. It's a very hard struggle. Like how you said, like your mom had trouble taking you to school and stuff like that. I've never have gotten to see my son go to a class. I've never got to see him walk a stage to receive like even a little fake diploma to graduate kindergarten and stuff like that. It's because my son lives 8 hours away. I live in
Wow.
Florida. His mom and him live in Georgia. They live almost over to the Tennessee line. So it's like it's very hard for me to actually just be able to go up there and just see him every week and stuff, and knowing that you work and everything like that, which that's not excuses, but it's just it's hard.
Yeah.
Like gas ain't cheap. So it's
Oh
like
yeah.
these little things, and it's like even with him in school and stuff, I could tell just how much he's progressing more every time he's going to school and stuff like that. He sadly just had to repeat third grade, just based off of his level. He's just wasn't to that level what he needed to be. But it's just crazy to see like how much more he's developed, his sentences, his words, everything. And I love how you actually made that a motivation for you to get better, to do better, to prove everybody wrong. Um, what kept motivating you to go? I know with your mom and your stepmom and all them like to encourage you, but what made you want to keep continuing? What did you want to do to prove people differently? Or did you just see it as a normal thing and it was like, you know what? I'm gonna get there.
Well, you know what? Throughout my whole life, I was always told, I was always told differently. And as I got older, I began to realize you have one life, and you have all these tools now available to you, and you just have to use it. And one of the things that my stepmom used to tell me is, you have one disability. You have the cane. The cerebral palsy will never go away. Your disability will always be there. Make it a part of you. Embrace it. And as the years progressed, I finished up elementary, middle school, and high school here in Florida. Got my diploma. Then I then after that I went up to the biggest part of my life, which was college. I went to UCF, and I used to wake up at 4:30 in the morning to go to a class at
Mm-hmm.
7:30 in the morning, and I'd be on campus till about 8 o'clock. And I would ride a bus for 2.5 hours to get to class
Every day?
every day from
Where did you
Stanford.
stay? Where? Also, you
I,
stayed in Stanford.
I
Okay.
stayed in Stanford, but I would take a bus every day, 2.5 hours. And one of the things that motivated me was my family, and just the fact that I have this disability and that I could be the first one in the family to ever hold a college degree. And I held, people were like, you shouldn't hold so much pressure on your shoulders. But I said, either I make it to UCF, or everything that I've done in my life doesn't matter. And I've pulled
Wow.
through for 4 years, every single day, did not fail one single class, showed up on time, and I made it through. And the day of the graduation, I remember waking up in the morning, looking at the mirror. It still hadn't hit me that I had finished. I We got up to the arena. I was surprised. My family from Puerto Rico, they surprised me. They came up from Puerto Rico to see me, and
Mm-hmm.
I don't know they were coming. They called me like, "Congratulations for graduating!" And I was trying to see them at the arena, and they're like, "Wow!" And then they asked me, going into the arena, before I went up stage, they're like, "Do you want to take the stairs, or do you want to take the ramp?" And I said, I waited 17 long years. I lost a parent for this moment. I'm going to go up those stairs. And
Mm-hmm.
I remember the second I went up those stairs, you couldn't hear the crowd at all. Like, it was just quiet, because I figured everybody's just tired of like clapping and cheering.
Mm-hmm.
If I can just hear my family cheer, I'm fine with that.
That
I'm
makes it.
content
Yeah.
with that. But I remember giving the cane to the announcer, and I going up the stairs, and at that sense, going up those stairs, it felt like you're going up a mountain, like the last few steps of like Mount Everest. For me,
Mm-hmm.
this was Mount Everest, and I remember going up there, grabbing the cane. The second I lifted that cane up, that place erupted, and I mean, this was like, if you watch AEW, this was like CM Punk level eruption. Like, I mean, it was so loud you couldn't hear anything. Like, it was like, and I sat there for a good 5 minutes and just soaking it in.
Mm-hmm.
And I went backstage, and I just lost it, man. I completely, like, emotionally.
I mean, yeah,
Mm.
that's gonna take you. That's gonna, because I mean, everyone has told you literally, and I've always seen this. Like one thing I've always learned about myself was I never gave up, and I literally wanted. I always used my life as what I said. I was a human underdog. I wasn't the best athlete ever that came out of my school, the best athlete that ever came out of my state, but you were not gonna put me at the very last. And that was one thing I always said. I always motivated myself. I may not be the best, but I damn sure not going to be the last. I'm damn sure not going to be that guy who's like, oh, he just passes on by. Because literally, like how you said, you'd be up at 4 a.m. getting ready to go to school and stuff like that. I was doing that every single day, every single day. High school, I'm getting up early just so I can go throw up jump shots and stuff because because I believed that I could be the top 6 man in my high school. Like I literally every single day I built myself up. And funny thing is I never touched the weight room until after my freshman year. I never lifted weights in my life in my freshman year. I literally got took on varsity one game, and I had to play against our rivalry Fernandina Beach. And literally, my first play, I got dragged halfway across the field. This was
Wow.
my realization. Like, all right, that's never happened again. I'm going in the weight room. I'm not ever having that happen again in my life. And literally, needless to say, I just had these little moments and stuff to push me to keep doing. And like when I got in that weight room, man, I made sure no one was going to drag me across the field again. That was absolutely a no. So it's like those things, like I feel like those are the one I always used to say, and you always got to find that one to get that foot to get kicked in the spirit, just so you can boost yourself up and keep going. It's just those moments, and that's a beautiful thing that one you got to go to UCF. That's not so far away, like that. That's not like an out of state thing for you. So you're basically somewhat in your comfort zone in ways too. So it's cool to see that you did that. Not only did that, you succeeded. What did you major in?
I majored in sociology.
Okay. Well, that's a big one. That's a good one, man. So you majored in that, you conquered it, and and you were the CM Punk of UCF. How about that?
Literally the week after, I had classmates message me because you're like, dude, you made the commencement commercial for the school, and I'm like, what are you talking about? And then they show me, and actually they show me lifting up the cane, and the crowd cheering, and
Mm,
I'm shaking the dean's hand, the department.
that's awesome, man. That's really cool. I want to go back a little bit talking about college. What was your educational level wise like? Like how did you keep getting better and better every time in class? Did you because I mean, I had a little bit of experience with college. I went basically almost half a year at Florida Atlantic University. Like I said, I had a son. I was doing it to walk on for basketball. And needless to say, after you have a kid, sports and sports in college you can't do. Like I know people are gonna say, yeah, I've done it before and stuff like that, but it is hard because when
Yeah.
you play sports in college, that's a full time job. Literally is literally basketball, run, workout. Oh yeah, by the way, you might be tired, but you got class in the next 20 minutes, like stuff like that. Like what made you to keep going more and more every time and just proven every single time that you can just do better every way of the way.
My family and my friends, I don't want to let them down. And like I said, I
Hmm.
had this huge chip on my shoulder that unfortunately my biological mom, she never finished school at all. She just got up to high school, and then she
Oh
had
wow.
me, and then she had my brother, and that was it. And
Hmm.
I said, I'm gonna finish something. I'm gonna finish what she couldn't finish myself.
Hmm.
And I carried that with me for all 4 years. I said, I'm gonna prove everybody. I'm gonna shock the world. I'm gonna prove people that I can do it, and I did it, and I did it a week before my 21st birthday, and a week
Oh
before Mother's
wow,
Day.
man. That's awesome. That's awesome. That's really cool, man. Dang, that's really cool. So now you graduated college. Now what was next?
Now I actually went to serve with AmeriCorps. I don't know if you heard of AmeriCorps before. What we do.
Hmm.
Um, I went to serve with the city of Orlando. I was the only member with a physical disability with CPE for the 4 years there, and I was
Wow.
also the longest serving member there um, from 2017 to 2021.
Hmm.
And I also helped create with my former program manager the disability inclusion section of
Hmm.
the company. So every year they have that section. They bring me in to kind of highlight my experience, highlight what the program's about, what I do as a team lead, because I led 3 teams within 3 years. I was a team leader for 2 schools,
Oh wow.
and I was the only member with a disability in that program for the 4 years. There was no one else, so I was
Really?
essentially the one to change the culture behind it.
Hmm. Did people treat you differently when you first started there, or was it just like, oh, they just treat you like a normal person?
At first, one of my bosses, he was reminiscing with me when I first saw you walk into the office. I immediately jumped and wanted to help you, but your other boss was like, "Don't you help him because
Mhm.
he said he could do it. Treat
Mhm.
him like everybody else. Don't treat him
I love it.
differently." You know, he's so he let me do what I needed to do, and since then it's been the only wait so if I need help, if I ask for help, then they help. They
Mhm.
respect that, and I've become one of the most beloved people in the city of Orlando, and I mean not just in that program, but I actually moved to a new position called My Brother's Keeper, which is where my
Mhm.
advocacy goes in, and I've been advocating for our children in our schools ever since, to
Okay.
provide them a safe haven.
Okay. So what motivated you to actually start doing that?
That's based off life experiences. My life.
Mhm.
How I've always had obstacles in my life, and these kids, they can relate to me in a lot of ways because they struggle with the same thing: self-esteem,
Mhm.
academics, self-confidence, self-belonging. All those things that I had to deal with, they deal with too. So by disability, by me mentioning all those things to some of these kids, they're like, "Oh, wait a minute. If he's overcome those things, if I've
Yeah.
dealt with those things, he's dealt with them too. So he's a cool guy. I can go up to him and talk to him about anything that does with that, and it'll be a judgment-free zone." You know?
Mhm. Right. I will say that's one thing about this generation now. I feel like now it's if there was a problem, it's all being spoken of now. Like if self-esteem, uh, I really think the really biggest one is the is oh my gosh, I forgot the name of it. Mental health. I don't know how I literally just blacked out on that part. Literally is mental health. That is a big deal. From me, how I started to get into the world of professional wrestling is based off of my mental health thing. Like I said, my son's mom and me weren't together, and we had a big backlash that basically happened where she up and left with him for almost 8 months, and I had to take her to court, whatever, just so I could have him back in my life, just to have a paper say, hey, you can have him stay at X amount of days type scenario. And then obviously when he went to school, that changed a lot more now. So but my mental health, I never even experienced it. Like I had a parent that was in the military. So obviously I thought for him the way he talks to you, you know how people in the military they talk in a very different way. Like they talk to you people like they don't you don't get that much sympathy type scenario. It's like, look, I
Yeah.
said do it. Period. You either do it or you don't eat. Type scenarios like that. So I always thought it was like a normal way to be talked to like that. And then when I'd go to my friend's house and they would just talk so nicer, I was just like, I don't get that. Like, why does your mom talk to you like that? Like, what's up with this? Like,
Yeah.
why is your dad so dang nice? Like, those things is like one thing that I say was a good and a bad for me. It was because I just thought it was a normal way to talk to somebody in a stern, strict way. So when I got into wrestling gets to where you go through barriers. Like they go through basically look at your character wise, look at your look, all that stuff. You go through stages, like literally like how you do in sports teams. It's like, all right, that's my competition. I'm gonna see if they really can rise up to what they're doing. And with the way of mental health is now, obviously I can see where I've had my problems in the past with mental health and stuff like that. So what are some of the troubles that you still go through? Do you still go through any type of mental health issues or do you feel like you've literally have overcame so much and it's just like nothing really can bother you?
Of course, there are things that bother you at times, but I don't let it deter me from my goals, and I uh, try to maintain a lot of normalcy and a lot of positivity in my life, and I have a good support system to to not fall. They'll catch me, and
Hmm.
that's what I'm grateful for. Is to
Right.
have that good support system, and that's what a lot of these kids are missing is that mentor, and that's what I'm there for, to mentor them and to guide them and to let them know that I'm here. I'll
Hmm.
always be here, and you're not gonna fall, and you're not alone. You're not alone. That's the key thing that every person needs to know is they are not alone.
Hmm. I love how you said that because I use like a metaphor, like I say in the gym, the hardest thing to do is to show up. If you show up, that's one of the hardest tasks that you've ever overcame is literally just showing up. And it's more said than done. And I think it's more effective in ways than you just being like, I'm thinking about going. I'm thinking about going. No, you just showing up. Obviously, you're gonna have a reaction to it. You're
Yeah.
not just gonna show up and be like, nah, not today. Like if you show up, literally, I'm pretty sure 9 times out of 10 that you're gonna do something. So I love how you just said it's just you just being there for somebody really just changes them. So what are some experiences that you've witnessed with some of these kids? Like, what are some of these things that you have literally just like when you were little and you're just like, man, I never thought it like that. I've never even experienced stuff like this, and I'm going through what I've had. So like, what are some of the things that you have went through with these kids?
Well, I've had kids get arrested, show up to
Wow.
make it to court. They got ankle monitors. I've dealt with a lot of different scenarios that these kids have overcome. I've had kids, ask me about, what do I do in this situation? I dealt with students in previous schools that I work with, them getting, them telling me I don't want to go home because so and so parent is gonna go like off on me. But we're not talking about off like yelling at you. We're talking about like physically
Yeah.
off, and it's like it's scary, man.
Hmm. Wow. And what were your reactions to some of this stuff that you were hearing?
Well, so some of the stuff I could relate to. What I usually did was, as soon as they told me, I'd take them straight to the counselor and hey, and talk to them. Hey, we have a certain situation that we need to take care of right away. And at first, the student was very hesitant. They wouldn't want to
Hmm. Yeah.
talk about it with them, but they would open up to me, and I'm like, you can talk to me about anything, and I would slowly convince them, hey, it's always good to get help. When you get
Hmm.
help, things happen. So
Hmm.
it's okay that you come up to me and talk to me. It's a safe place. So I would always remind them that, and eventually they'll come around and they'll be like, okay, let's go. Let's get help. And
Right.
that's what I was kind of there for, is to kind of, like I said, guide them and to and to tell them that um, I'm not trying to force you to open up. I want you to open up when you're ready, you
Right.
know?
That's beautiful, man. That's really cool, and just to see someone for you to motivate kids to like literally take that step. It's more said than done. I've witnessed it. I've had numerous friends witness this stuff like this, and it's a terrible thing, man. And it's really hard to swallow your pride and be like, you know what? This ain't normal. This is not the way people are supposed to be treated. We need to change. We need to make a change to it and stuff like that. So that's a beautiful thing that you've changed stuff like that. And man, and I could tell just how passionate you are with this stuff and stuff like that. You did mention you have a podcast and stuff like that. What started you to get into the podcast world?
Well, of course, the number one thing is
Motivation.
motivation, and then my experiences, and also the pandemic, which with the shutdown and
Yep.
lockdown, I was working from home, but it was just I absolutely hated working virtually because you weren't there at the school physically.
Hmm.
It's just boring, man. It's just and I said, why not take that extra time and just use it to start a podcast? And at first, the podcast was just like, I'm like, oh, it's not going anywhere, and I'm not getting
What
very
platform
many
did you
views.
start with? What
Anchor.
platform did you Anchor? Okay,
I
yep, same here.
I I I have mixed reviews about Anchor, and I honestly did not like it, so
So
I
you didn't
switched.
get good reviews right off the rip on Anchor?
Oh yeah, I did. It's just Anchor wasn't as far as like control, because I don't know if you know,
Mm,
but Anchor's owned by Spotify. So
yeah,
technically, all your work is all the
going
money
straight
that
to them.
you made from the podcast. Part of it goes to them. So
Hmm.
with Red Circle, you're in full control of your podcast, from your logos to what you want to post to everything. So I switched to there, and even though I'm not making any money right now so far, at least I have creative control of everything that I do. It's all
Hmm.
mine. So I switched to that, and I can post to anywhere now.
How many platforms do you have so far? And talk to me a little bit about Red Circle. I've heard little bits of Red Circle, so it's literally like Anchor, except you just have full control of it.
Yep, you have full control of it. You can collaborate with other podcasters through cross promotion. So you
Okay.
can send them a little clip about your show, and if they accept, they can put your clip on their show and promote your show so that people can
Really?
go
So
and
it's an
see it.
easier way to promote it. Okay. Because like
Exactly.
an Anchor, you only could like favorite the person and probably do like
Ex-
a voice review and stuff like that. Okay.
exactly. And if you get the 500, I think it's downloads a week, then they'll accept you into the program, which you can start monetizing your
Hmm.
podcast. And supposedly it pays a whole lot more because they only take, what is it like? They let you keep 80% of what you make
Oh
on your
wow.
podcast,
Okay.
and
Yeah,
20% goes
I
to
haven't
Red
got
Circle.
paid by Anchor yet. Like literally, I've got like I think maybe $26 in the account somehow
Yeah,
with
yeah.
Anchor. So it's like, and I was sitting there, I was trying to figure out how is that built up like that? Because I have 2.7K on plays right now, and I'm like I said, I'm only on season 3. I've only been doing this maybe a year and a half. So it's like I was trying to calculate like as many plays as that. How the heck is that only equal $23? Like, huh? Like, how
Yeah.
does that even make that sense? Like, and then when they tell you like the total plays and stuff, when I first started, I was getting over 50 plays, literally, and I'm just like, people are listening to me like this. But I did hear Anchor is not fully the statistic wise, it's not right there,
It's
like on
off.
play
Yeah.
wise and stuff. So obviously, if they have 10 plays, they'll tell you like you have 130 plays or something like that. And I just figured all this stuff out because I used to think like, oh man, I'm getting listened to very well. And then when I took my 2 month break and I'm just back on the season now, it kind of like took a defect. And I people kept telling me like, man, don't get discouraged. It's just because you haven't been on for 2 months. Now they're just making you look like, hey, now you got to build yourself back up. So I've heard numerous things about Red Circle. I was looking at probably doing the monetization on doing Red Circle. I've looked at Podbean as well, but Podbean is very a pain in the butt in ways. I think it's almost just like when you're trying to get on what's the one that starts with a P? Oh my goodness,
Podcorn.
Podcore. Yeah, yeah. That one's a little difficult to get on as well. But I got on iHeartRadio. I thought that was pretty cool to achieve that part. But I did hear I kind of did not read all the full thing when I signed it, and now I don't even have all control of my episodes when it comes to the iHeartRadio. So like if it's published, they listen to it, they tell me, hey, can't use this, you can't use that, stuff like that. So it kind of sucks on that way, but I mean, it's hey man, I'm getting listened to very well on iHeartRadio, so it's like those are little achievements. So I just see it as like, look, man, you're listening to me. That's all I care about. I'm not worried about literally getting paid millions of dollars on a podcast, which I would love it. I'm sure both of us would love that idea.
Exactly.
Just sitting on and talking on a mic and getting paid like that, amazing idea. But my biggest way is I just want people to just be educated on like how like stuff in your perspective, like step a mile in your shoes. Let's try to visualize what you go through day to day basis and stuff like that, and just maybe see a different outlook on things. Like I've seen some people that back then, if I was in high school, I wouldn't even made a care in the world to even think of having a conversation with. I had one that was talking about pageantry and stuff like that. I really didn't think I was gonna like it, but as person she was and just telling me all the stuff that she's overcame and tell me what she did to keep pursuing it. It was just a beautiful thing to see. Like she went through all this. She's 50 years old and still doing pageants and doing it at a top of level of her games and stuff. It's just a beautiful thing just to see people keep progressing, even though they got a lot of baggage down to pull them down. But it
Exactly.
eventually is they're rising up, and I mean it's a beautiful thing to see with all the success rate that goes on. Um, what are some of the guesses that you've had on? And then is there some crazy episode that you've had where you didn't think that could happen?
I've had I've had some close friends. I've had uh, three high profile guests on my show. I've had the only wrestler with cerebral palsy in the world, Gregory Iron. He was actually on my podcast recently. We talked about him, his life story about overcoming obstacles to CP, his parents, dealing with a lot of turmoil in his life, how he got into professional wrestling, and some of the names he's worked with, like CM Punk, Stone Cold Steve Austin. We talked about him possibly going into the Royal Rumble. Rumor years ago that he had. He and I connected through my best friend for my birthday. He made a cameo. He requested a cameo from him. And surprisingly, because I've been trying to reach Iron for years because I've been wanting him to be on my show and just to meet him.
Right.
He sent me the link to the cameo. I listened to it. He's like, yo, David, how's it going, man? You know, I heard it's your birthday, and happy birthday. He's like, are you pumped? Are you ready? And then he's like, yo, your friend told me you have CP and I have CP, and he also told me you got a show. And I'd like to be on that show. And on the same day I got the cameo was the same day I met him through email. And he took time from his podcast, Iron on Wrestling, to be on my show so that we could talk. And he actually made an appearance, and it was awesome. It was surreal.
That's awesome.
You know,
That's pretty cool, man.
You know, and the fact that he's worked with these big names despite his disability, and you know, we talked a little bit about wrestling, and eventually I'm going to have him back on for a fitness session. I wanted to ask him about the Brian Cage and that angle with him, because I don't know if you saw it. I don't know if you saw it on YouTube like years ago where he had an angle with Brian Cage. He was a heel, so he came out with a juice box to up to Brian Cage. And he started saying all these things about Brian Cage, about his haircut and the way that he talked and stuff. And Brian Cage went and closed on them and gave him like these 3 big power bombs. And it was like, man, he could take it, you know. And and I even asked him about, has he joined? He's gotten I guess calls from like Impact Wrestling and you know, and all these small indie promotions, but he hasn't really gotten anywhere. So he's been in the indie scene for more than a decade. And I asked him, what about AEW? Because AEW has been more inclusive. You know, you have people
right.
that are, you know, different kinds of genders and you know, and they're more open to having smaller wrestlers and more open to different gimmicks. And he's like, I haven't gotten a call from AEW. So, or New Japan for that matter. And I'm like, some way and somehow, hopefully before the end of your career, something happens where you end up getting called. But he was an awesome guy, you know. Now we keep in touch all the time now. So
that's awesome, and I love how you say stuff like that, man. When I first started in the indies, obviously everybody only knew of WWE, and I knew of WCW and stuff like that, but it's WWE. Like literally all wrestling, you thought of just nothing but WWE, WWF, whatever you want to say, but that's all I saw. So when I started independent wrestling, I got introduced to basically that, like I say all the time, that silent door where you just open the knob, and literally it's like, I use this thing, like I'm a big fan of Snickers. I don't eat it all the time, but that new flavor Snickers, like an almond flavor or something like that, and it's just like a new flavor every single week. Like when I saw that it's really big in New England, New London, stuff like that, I'm just like, whoa, they got wrestling there? Like, really? I remember when I watched I was just turning my channels one day and I watched TNA and I saw Kurt Angle in the ring. I'm like, I thought he quit. Like, I didn't see all these guys for so long, and then realized, okay, they're not just done wrestling, but they're wrestling all around the world and stuff. They're just basically expressing their horizon and not controlled in per se ways. So I know that's like a big reason why a lot of people are jumping ships basically now, is because not only are they getting health benefits, they're not on the road as much as they used to be. And I mean, coming from my background, that's awesome.
Yeah, creative control too.
That's awesome. Like, honestly, am I a big fan of all the stuff that's going in AEW? Not all the way. I just feel like they're going too fast in ways. And some of the signings that they're doing, I think they need to trim down and just focus on the independent guys more.
Exactly. I feel the same way, because it feels like
they're going to that part where they did like with WCW. WCW booked way too much WWE talent, and literally it buried them because of so much money that they promised these guys. Which, I mean, honestly, man, if you offered somebody, say, hey, that's been traveling 5 days a week wrestling, it's a lot of toll on your body. It's a lot. I mean, the money is great, but longevity wise, it's probably not going to be that fun.
Yeah.
So you got a chance to go AEW, maybe wrestle twice a week, making almost the same amount of pay, and you got health benefits. That was one reason why independent wrestling's got really hard times to do stuff, is because your health benefit wise, you're on your own. Unless if you're like in a very big brand for the indies, you're on your own. Like that's on you. That's your real. That's on your purpose to get that done. So I mean, it's just a beautiful thing to see. And I've said this numerous times. It's a beautiful thing to be a wrestler right now and a wrestling fan, because you got so much. It's starting to show on TV more. You're not just seeing the WWE anymore. You're not even just seeing AEW anymore. You're seeing New Japan on TV now. Ring of Honor. Ring of Honor has been out for so long, and nobody got the exposure as much as because you didn't know about it. Now you have every way of accessing any type of promotion right now. And that's like in any sport now. You've realized it's not only in the US, it's everywhere. And I mean, it's and not with wrestling wise, it's so many different styles. And AEW is bringing that in a little bit more now. Is your high flying, your luchas, and stuff like that. You only saw a very little of it in WWE. So I mean, it's just really cool to see wrestling getting not only the WWE stamp anymore, it's getting everything. It's theirs, their product.
Yeah, it's truly an amazing experience to be a wrestling fan, and I truly enjoy the AEW product, and hopefully
Mm-hmm.
WB can catch on and see and take some notes, because right now they're getting buried in the ratings.
I don't know. This Monday Night Raw they had, it was hard to top. And I think maybe the Bryan Danielson match and Kenny Omega is
Yeah,
what they needed.
that
I
match
was
was
glad about that match.
beautiful. That match is beautiful.
I wasn't really hyped up on most of the AEW matches just because I mean you're just telling like, all right, it's just basically gonna be a spit fest. But I love watching the competition wise, and it's really cool to see. Anyways, AEW plays on the same night as maybe SmackDown now, so that's even pretty funnier in ways. But
Yeah,
it's really cool to see the matches. I think some of them they kind of still falling off of what they're trying to bring out in visual for the product,
yeah,
because you're sitting there saying you're supposed to be bringing out great wrestling. I had a review of all out recently last week on my episode and stuff like that. And I honestly really saw two matches that really were just wrestling matches. And I think if they can just get back to that visual and like what they say with the ranking wise, what they're doing, and they actually fall on it and really do what they're saying on the ranking wise, I can be more of a believer to it. It's just because now it seems like they're just scattering themselves all around the places because they know they're doing good. So they think they got to really just expand more. They got to sign more WWE guys. They got to do all this stuff. And I think that's what they're really messing up on, because this is supposed to be for the indie guys. This is for them to get their exposure, them to get all their life hard dreams that they have fought so diligently for, which most of them won't ever get to have that chance in WWE unless if they do very successful in AEW, and then WWE obviously gives them that handout later
yeah.
on the road. But I'm very happy to see just wrestling as a whole doing well. I've had at least 12 guys I know that I've been in the ring with, been on a show with, or something like that, has been on AEW Dark. I wish they would get a little bit more exposure on that. I wish they weren't just in the squash match. Give them chances to really show what they're capable of. And I think that would actually boost AEW's AEW Dark in ways, just because you're giving guys that people don't see all the time more exposure, more showing of what they really can do. And I really hate these squash matches. There's some I wish you build up for a baby face. If you're building up a guy that was like a Kane or something like that, yes. But if you're just doing it with guys that are like almost the same size or whatever, let them have an actual match. Like literally give them a good time and let them show what they're capable of.
Exactly, man.
What'd you feel about the CM Punk thing? You think he's better than what he was, or do you think you could tell he hasn't been in the ring for a while?
I mean, he did pretty decent. It's just I hate how they have him talking every week and not really doing much. That's what I hate.
Yes, I think he's actually had that control for him to actually want to do that. And I think that's what AEW really wanted to see him do is be more on the mic because that's what made him. In reality, WWE wise, you didn't really care much of the ethic of CM Punk until he got that mic. When CM Punk got that mic, that changed the visuals of, oh, he's not just a good wrestler. This boy is it on the mic. Like we have been looking for that poster boy to say, hey, who can do both things, wrestle and mic work? We saw Cena. Cena wasn't the best wrestler, but he was a damn good person on that mic. Dang good person on the mic. So who can follow that with? Oh, we got Punk now. This guy that literally was just an ECW guy that wasn't promised anything. Oh, he can do something now. And sometimes he got hated for it in ways, just because how damn good he was. And I think that's just I wish they would stop doing that a little bit more, especially if he's making that long of a travel. Like Punk is traveling to Illinois and all this stuff. Let him wrestle. Like literally let him wrestle. Or if it's his choice, I mean, he's got his control of it now. I mean, I love what they've done with Kristen Cage. Uh, I was really excited to see what was going to happen with Bryan Danielson. I just wanted to see what style he was going to bring to AEW that he didn't bring in WWE because he kept saying Vince protected him. Vince did this. Vince did that. So with people sitting here and bash Vince saying, hey, he don't care about the workers, Vince did a lot for Bryan. Vince did a lot for Bryan. And after Punk's, and like I've said it numerous times, if it weren't for Punk leaving, I don't think we had ever got the Yesamania in New Orleans.
Yeah, that's true.
And I mean, I believe that's still one of the best WrestleManias of all time, just from the storyline based on that. And obviously the Kofi Kingston one. And it was really cool to see Bryant just switch roles from being the underdog to being the guy. And to basically pass that torch to Kofi was just a beautiful thing. Beautiful thing. I wish they'd done a little bit more with it, but can't
Yeah,
always please everybody. But it was just a
exactly.
beautiful moment. And that's one thing I tell people they got the WrestleMania moment. And I think Matt Cardona, aka Zack Ryder, has said it very well on his podcast is nobody cares about the storyline. Nobody cares about the longevity of the title reign. They care about the mania. They care about the show when it happened. And I've always told people the championship doesn't make you. You make the title. And even in that short time, it made the title more valuable and stuff like that. So I'm really excited to see what's going to go on with Bryan Danielson. Obviously, going up with Kenny Omega, I didn't really know much of Omega until I watched him and Jericho go in New Japan. And I was just like, okay. Because I mean, obviously you see the Twitter and everyone bad mouthing John Cena, like, oh, that 5-star match, I could have done that in my sleep. And I kept watching Kenny Omega, and it's like the Young Bucks, man. They're good, but they just do too much. And I think now Kenny Omega is starting to see it as I'm not getting any younger, but I could still go, but I'm learning how to actually wrestle the match now, not just do spot for spot for spot. He's actually wrestling to wrestle. And I think that is what is a beautiful thing of what's going on with him. And honestly, I would love to see him and Phil go at it in the near future.
Who knows? It might happen. We just gotta wait and see, right? That's all you gotta
That's
do.
what I'm saying. Like, if they literally just be patient with it, don't just give it to us all at once. Don't give it to us all at once. Don't do it on free TV. That's the biggest problem that WCW did. They gave you all these big matches on free TV. And then when you go to the pay per view, it's like, I already saw it. Like, what's going to be different? Like, really, what else can they change on that? And that's one thing that WWE really messed up on with Sasha and Charlotte. They done it on free TV so much. You went to the pay per view, it's like, oh, they're doing Charlotte versus Sasha again. Oh,
Yeah,
it's in Hell in a Cell. What's going to be different with this? Just because of the cell? Like, it is only so much more you can do. And honestly, health wise for those characters, it helps them in ways as well because I ain't got to kill myself just to make this match memorable.
yeah, exactly.
But David, this was awesome, man. I really enjoyed this, man.
Yeah,
It's really cool just to know that me and you just met, and it's like how much we can relate to and stuff. Is like, what message would you give to some kids that like not only just like have trouble speaking out or something like that, but people that have like your condition and stuff like that? What would you give to them just to keep let them know like, hey man, you're not alone, and this is what you can progress if you continue to keep going.
Well, one thing I would say is embrace who you are, embrace your flaws. Um, keep working hard on those flaws, and eventually you'll become successful. Know that there's people around you that are there to support you, encourage you, that'll catch you when you feel like you're about to fall or you fall on hard times. There's
Hmm.
always people out there, and regardless of what you want to accomplish, whether school, sports, um, anything in general, it is possible. You know, it is possible for you to do anything. You can achieve your dreams. You can achieve your goals. It all starts with your heart and what's in there, and the drive and determination. And just keep on pushing forward. And like I usually say at the end of my podcast, is if I can do it, so can you. So if I can overcome all these obstacles and all these things that I faced in my life, so can you. You know.
Hmm. I love it, man. That's awesome. I mean, I mean, there's no more said and done you could say than that. I mean, that should literally lift somebody up to literally be like, okay, I can do this. I can do this. I can be what he's doing. I can even do it what even better if I want to be that way, but I have to just keep going. And that's more said than done. That's a beautiful thing. David, this has been a pleasure. Um, I do a podcast where I do my unbiased opinion options. I'm actually considering of having a co-host and do a episode where we just go over wrestling every other week and stuff like that. I might inbox you and we might have something set up for that.
Yeah, I'd be happy to, man. Just let me know. Just let me know when.
All right, man. Do you watch WWE also, or are you pro AEW completely?
I watch like highlights and things of WWE, like major events that
Hmm.
happen. So I keep up with it.
Okay. All right, man. Yeah, we'll definitely have something in the works. Also, I want to finish up on this, man. How do you feel about the Owen Hart thing? I will say that is a beautiful thing to actually see Owen Hart now going to be cherished in the world of wrestling. I'd still say to this day he is one of the best wrestlers of all time. Um, one of the guys literally gone way too soon, way past his prime, and
Yeah.
I'd say literally if Owen would have gotten to wrestle his full on tenure, I don't think anybody could have matched what the caliber of Owen Hart brought to wrestling.
Yeah, honestly, the other day when I read about that, I was like, that's awesome. He's finally getting the recognition he deserves. And then I read a comment saying that Vince was wrong in letting the show continue after Owen had, I guess,
Hmm.
fallen on the ring, knowing that the ring was a quote unquote crime scene. You know, because if you think about it, he fell in that ring and they said, oh, but he didn't die until he got to the hospital. Still, you're talking about a life-threatening situation to the point where you could have taken the initiative. You could have been like, okay, this happened. We'll give you your money back. We'll refund you, and we'll give you another chance for another show when we're back in town. But instead, Vince thought, oh, let's just use this for collateral for to get people to watch. You know, like, oh,
Hmm.
Owen Hart died, so I got to turn to this channel. I mean, this is my opinion that I'm saying this, but I feel like
Hmm.
he disrespected the legacy of Owen Hart by just letting the show continue.
So you think with him continuing the show was downright the spit in the face for Owen Hart?
Exactly, because emotionally, those wrestlers. If you heard some of them, did you watch Dark Side of the Ring?
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
So I don't know if you saw the Dark Side of the Ring with Owen. How some of those wrestlers,
Hmm.
like The Godfather, um, and a few of his closest friends, they said emotionally they weren't invested in wrestling. They were
And they
emotional.
had
They
to
were an
follow up on
emotional
that
wreck.
match.
They were an emotional wreck.
Godfather was supposed to be in that match with Owen that night.
Yeah, yeah. And I'm like, why would you continue this show? Look at how everybody is. Instead of just saying, okay, we'll end the show abruptly. We'll unite together, come out to the ramp, and do a 10 bell salute, or at least tell the fans, Owen Hart is seriously injured, and we'll just. But
Right.
you know,
I
but
mean,
that, and that's
go
why
ahead.
That's why Martha Hart was so hesitant in working with WWE because of the way that they handled the situation.
Right. Yeah. I agree with you on that. Well, from me, from being in the background professional wrestling, there was always a saying, the show must go on. And I honestly, I get what you're saying with that, but that would be any promotion. Honestly, they would have literally have continued the show just because, like we said, it was a pay-per-view show. Pay-per-views downright are dirty as can be. That's your biggest pay-per-view buy rate. That's what really makes your brand in ways. So literally, they would have been on his butt and stuff like that. And at the time, they didn't know Owen was dead. And literally, like what they say in the Dark Side of the Ring and stuff like that, they weren't really even told until the very almost the I think semi main. I think it was semi main when they actually announced that he was per se dead. And I mean, I wasn't. What was it? I was born in '91, so
I was born in '91 too.
okay. So I'm trying to remember when did it happen again. When what year was it again? Was it the '93 or four?
No, I think it was 90, 94, 95 around there.
Okay, yeah. So I mean, I really knew very little of it. So yeah, I agree with you on that. I mean, definitely should have probably cut the show off right after that. Um, Probably took the heat for that one show just because I mean, show the respect of a beautiful person that literally gave his heart and soul to that business. Gave his heart and soul to that business. And I remember he told them that he was not sure, he was not okay of doing that stunt, but still did it. And I mean, who knows what the whole story was for him when he was supposed to jump off? Would they told him no, or he said go? Who knows? We'll never know about that, sadly. Um, but just things like that was definitely a punch into WWE's long-awaited fall that's coming out now. Dark Side of the Ring, I don't know if you knew, is actually partially owned by AEW right now. So they're throwing every shot as they can possibly do right now into WWE in ways. So it's like, yeah, because Conrad Thompson is actually a little bit of a he's got his hands into the AEW product as well.
Yeah, it's interesting, and hopefully with this, it'll. I'm excited to see whether Martha Hart will let Owen Hart be a playable character in the AEW game when it comes out.
There was a rumor that they might do that. I know Martha was actually wanting to do right off the rip and send it to the AEW product, even if it wasn't gonna make it past the year. Um, just to basically have Owen in a wrestling per se company. I mean, with me being a WWE guy, and I loved how your perspective was for just because of that visual, because I mean that does go major ways, and I feel like most people did what they did just because, like what we said in the past, there was nowhere else to go to make big money doing what you were doing. And I think
Yeah.
if they had that platform, if they had some brand that was literally as big as them doing what that was, there might have been The Rock going somewhere else, Stone Cold going somewhere else, Triple H going somewhere else, just because of how things were handled in ways. So I mean, it's still sad to this day to know someone actually died in an entrance coming into the ring, and him being a superhero and stuff like that, being hanged off the Raptors, and then when you watch Shawn Michaels and all these guys do the same stunt and do it safely and stuff, and it's just like you wonder what happened with Owens. Like, was it planned? Like, what happened with Owens? So it's definitely crazy. Dark Side of the Ring has definitely been getting a lot of plays lately, if you know what I mean, from
Yeah.
last week's episode. But we'll see whatever else goes down the back road with that. But David, I appreciate you doing this, man. This was a beautiful chat. I
Hey
want
man.
to tell you congratulations to all the achievements that you've had because, man, since I've had my son, I've been told numerous things like, hey, he won't learn how to walk, he won't learn how to talk at certain ages and stuff like that. And I always saw that as a push to keep proving people wrong, keep doing what I need to do to keep him progressing every single time. Um, the only thing that he went to the hospital and they told us that he didn't have was something when they said something about his brain, which was a beautiful. Oh, that was definitely a relieving moment because what they were trying to tell me with it was like he could have been basically a vegetable at a very, very young age, and basically that would all he would be. So luckily they told us that that wasn't true or anything like that. But I mean, it's definitely hard as a parent, but even more harder for you and people that you go through stuff like that because it's just people see you differently, and as much as they think it's a helpful way, you're seeing it as like, hey man, don't disrespect me. Like let me do what you're doing, even if it takes me a while, but I'm going to get there. And I love that attitude from you and stuff like that. And just to see the achievements that you have accomplished and stuff like that, man, it makes me feel more safer to know like, you know what? My son's got this. My son can conquer the world just as well as David has done in his way. So I mean, just a beautiful thing. David, you want to finish up on anything? You got any shout outs? You want to put your podcast? You want to put stuff about links, anyone that they can reach or follow you and stuff on?
Yeah, you can actually reach me at David's CP Fitness on Instagram. You can actually listen to my channel, my podcast at Cerebral Palsy and Fitness channel on YouTube. You can also follow me. You can also listen to the Red Circle podcast, which is the audio version. So, and I'm definitely excited to hopefully let people listen to my positivity and my words, and hopefully it'll uplift them. And we'll see what happens. I'm excited. Thank you so much for having me on.
No problem, David. This was awesome, and you are more welcome to come on anytime. And I definitely really want to do that wrestling idea with you.
Yeah, man. Do it.
All right, David. Have a good one.
You too, man. Thank you. Thank you for having me on.
Absolutely, man. Always a pleasure. Thank you.